So Bob Marley doesn't play.
Welcome back.
I didn't forget
It is
today.
magic. Oh, thank you.
Good evening. This meeting of the Jefferson County Board will now come to order. Roll call, please.
We have 28 present and 2 absent.
Thank you. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Waymeyer, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're invited to remain standing for a moment to contemplate our service to the public. Thank you. Are we in compliance with open meeting law?
We're in compliance, Mr. Chair.
Next is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like the order of the agenda altered in any way? The chair requests that items under the Finance Committee, items 13B and C, be reversed. So we'd first take up C and then B. Is there any objection to that change? Okay, we'll proceed accordingly. Next is approval of the October 22nd, 2019 meeting minutes. Supervisor Renard, please.
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes as printed. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Communications.
The zoning committee notice of public hearing is November 21st at 7 p.m. And then you'll also find the treasurer's report on your desk.
Thank you. Public comment. Do we have any registrants? We do not. Okay, now we'll go to the annual report of the Veterans Service Commission. Yvonne Dusterheft.
Good evening. I feel very fortunate to be able to give my few comments to you so close to Veterans Day. The first thing I'd like to do is invite all of our veterans, please, to stand. We have a number of county board supervisors that are veterans. Thank you very much, and Blair. I have some cards that I'd like to pass out to those of you on the county board that are veterans, but I'll not make you come all the way up here right now to get them. I did put a underwhelming report on your desk that has a lot of statistics and things about how much income comes into Jefferson County related to veterans benefits. Currently, over $35 million, which is, I think, kind of hard to understand that number, how it impacts people in each of your districts. And so instead of reading you this report, because I believe that you can do that on your own, I just wanted to tell you a couple of stories about individuals whose lives were changed because you as a county board support our County Veterans Service Office. The first story is about a Navy veteran who served over 30 years in the military and loved being in the military so much that he systematically avoided having his branch of service know anything about his health history. And as you might know, there's many things in the military that you can be exposed to that cause problems later on, famously Agent Orange from the Vietnam era. Korea veterans were affected by frostbite quite a bit. Gulf War veterans were exposed to undepleted uranium and other smoke, burn pits, things like this. And so even if they weren't ill when they got out of the military, those things can catch up with them, and we file disability claims. I filed disability claims for World War II veterans yet today. So this Navy veteran, back to him. He was 58 years old. This just happened in the last 2 years. And it took us almost 18 months to help this family through. He had a catastrophic stroke at 58 years old, but because he had been so good at not letting the military know what his medical conditions were, because he didn't want to be discharged. That's the bottom line. If you become ill in the military, you have some kind of disability that the military thinks that you can't continue to do your job, they might medically discharge you. Well, this guy didn't want that. So he has this catastrophic stroke and is rendered a quadriplegic and unable to speak. And we met him at a local nursing home. His family had gone to another county first to ask for their help, and they basically told him, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And when he landed in Jefferson County, we listened to the story, and one of the things that came up was the wife knew that this person had a history of high blood pressure. Well, it was a short leap to know that high blood pressure can lead to stroke, and sparing you the entire story, we succeeded in getting this person service connected, meaning that the military, we found the medical records, a harrowing story of his brother finding the records in a box in his garage because he can't tell anybody where anything is at this point. And that person's life was changed because instead of wasting away in a nursing home, because he became service connected, he was able to get the care that he needed to rehabilitate. And because of the severity of his condition, there was additional benefits like an $80,000 grant to build a handicap accessible house, a $21,000 grant to get a vehicle that could carry his wheelchair, life-changing for that family. And that's an example of the kinds of things that we work on. Just this week, we won an appeal for the widow of a Vietnam veteran, hearkening back to the Agent Orange illnesses. And the veteran was denied, the widow was denied benefits because her husband's discharge didn't have the exact right nomenclature of, he died in hospice. And often when you die in hospice, your whole health history is not available. So, you see things like heart failure or something like that, and coronary artery disease would have been the magic thing that they could have written on the death certificate. So for that family, we had to get a death certificate changed, and then the other leap that had to be overcome was then the VA decided that they weren't going to acknowledge that this veteran had boots on the ground in Vietnam. Well, I don't know if you've ever tried to argue with the federal government, but this can be a difficult challenge. And to the credit of my deputy, he went through 500 pages of this person's military record and found the one little piece of evidence that we could go back and say, yes, this person, had boots on the ground in Vietnam, which is a game changer for getting that illness connected to Agent Orange. And therefore, that widow, having lost her husband at 70 years old, at least has the comfort of not losing her house because, to carry on not just without her husband, but without his income. Again, a life-changing opportunity that we had to make a difference to that family. Changing gears just a minute from what we do with disability claims and the pension benefits, which what I've been talking about is disability compensation. There's a sister program called Non-Service Connected Pension, which allows us to help a family, of any age, but let's just say it's a Korea veteran or a World War II veteran that doesn't want to go to a nursing home. They want to stay in their house, which is better for everybody. It's better for them. It's better for society because it costs less. But if you don't have enough money to have a caregiver come in and help you with those things, it's likely that you're going to end up falling, break a hip, you're in the nursing home, that's it. It's over. So our pension benefits can provide up to $2,300 per month for somebody to either have a family member or visiting angels or somebody come into their house and provide those little things like bathing and medication management, all those kinds of things. So another important thing that we do. But switching gears, I want to highlight for you this document. And tell you a little bit of story about our journey to finally this year, with the help of our Veterans Service Commission, and particularly to Blair and Ben, I'd like to call out to help us stand up the Jefferson County Veterans Foundation, which is a 501c3 outside of the county, but it's allowing us to do some things that we couldn't do otherwise with just the commission, bigger things. Recently, we were straining under the weight of a backlog of claims because we just couldn't keep up. We couldn't give the level of service and keep up with everything that was going in the office, and we're very grateful to have emergency help for the end of this year. And when we have a little bit of room to breathe, I think our job is, number one, to answer questions that people don't know to ask, and number two, to help them out of whatever circular problem that they have, which often boils down to money, either not being able to manage money or just not having enough money for one reason or the other. And the emergency help that came in took a look at everything that was going on in our office and said, I can tell you what your problem is here in the Veterans Service Office. You, he said to me, are a bad bureaucrat. And I thought about that for a minute and said, well, thank you, because I don't want to be a bureaucrat. I'm in the business of solving problems, and with your help, that's what we do every day. So back to the Jefferson County Veterans Foundation, which is a tool that we are using to solve problems. When a person comes into our office, we want to get to the root of the problem of why they're having whatever problems that they're having. Is it because they need more education? Is it because they need help getting a better job or being inspired to reach for something higher? Is it because they're having medical issues that are untended to? Whatever those issues are, it takes time to sort them out. And sometimes it takes resources that we don't have as the county. And this foundation, when you look across, this is our vision statement. This is where I see in the last over 12 years, sticking points to help people move forward. And so I'm so pleased that we've been able to help people, and I'm going to give you one example. A woman Marine with 6 children walks into our office on a September afternoon, homeless. And it does not often happen that the problem walks into the office the same day that the solution does. But this woman had called a Craigslist ad and found a 5-bedroom house in Fort Atkinson, which that does not happen very often. The problem was she didn't have $2,000 to pay the rent and deposit. And there were 5 other people that called within 5 minutes of that ad being posted. We were able, with the foundation, to loan that woman the $2,000 with a generous repayment plan. And by that afternoon, she was in that house with those 6 children and stabilizing her life. That is the power of what we can do with the foundation. So I know you have a lot of work ahead of you this evening, and I don't want to take up all your time, but I wanted to share those little stories with you because any of you that came to me and asked me, I could tell you a story in your district about someone whose life has been changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Herbst.
I'd like to thank Ms. Dusterbeck. When I got out of the Army, I had drove a 27-ton 105 howitzer. They could fire around 6 miles, and when I was in the States on it was a 4.2 mortar. In my hearing, basically, most of it was shot. My wife was after me for a long time because I couldn't hear her. I don't know if it was on purpose or whatever it was. But anyway, she talked me into going down to see her. And she took me in and she walked me through the whole process. Never questioned. I went to the doctor and they said, yes, I need hearing aids. I have one in right now. And so she walked me through the whole thing. And not only did I get hearing aids, but I got compensation. So personally, I'd like to thank you for what you did for me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's many stories like that out there. Okay, next we go to the Board of Health. With a resolution encouraging the Wisconsin State Legislature and Governor Evers to accept federal Medicaid expansion. Supervisor Nealon, please.
Accepting federal Medicaid expansion dollars has the potential to generate $324.5 million in savings to the state of Wisconsin and approximately $23 million of new investments in Jefferson County. Accepting federal Medicaid expansion dollars will provide coverage to more than 82,000 residents living between 100 and 138% of the federal poverty level, including 864 Jefferson County residents. The $324.5 million in generated savings could be invested back into healthcare programs, including the Healthy Women, Healthy Babies Initiative, childhood lead poisoning reduction, increasing medical assistance coverage rates for dental care, tobacco cessation programs, and other community health programs. The Jefferson County Board of Health considered this resolution at its meeting on October 16, 2019, and recommended forwarding to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors for approval. Whereas all people deserve the opportunity to live in a state that creates conditions for everybody to be healthy, and whereas public safety should strive toward the elimination of health disparities, and whereas it is essential to provide health care coverage to the state's most vulnerable populations, and whereas it is essential to also support investing in health programs that build a healthier Wisconsin, and whereas public health departments believe the state has an exciting opportunity to invest in health-related programs that will have a significant impact for Wisconsin citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors hereby urges the state of Wisconsin legislature to accept federal Medicaid expansion dollars made available by the Affordable Care Act. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be sent to the Wisconsin Association of Local Health Departments and Boards and to all state legislators whose constituents are within the jurisdiction of Jefferson County. Fiscal note, this resolution has no fiscal impact. I would move to approve.
Moved and seconded to encourage the Wisconsin State Legislature and Governor Evers to accept federal Medicaid expansion. Discussion. Can we get a number on that, please? That's resolution number 46. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution is adopted. Now to the Broadband Working Group with a resolution supporting telecommuting opportunities and telecommuter forward certification. Supervisor Renard, please.
This is resolution number 2019-47. Telecommuting and broadband are increasingly important to the economy, education, and daily life, and are a key goal in Jefferson County's strategic plan. The state of Wisconsin, as well as its citizens, local units of government, schools, and businesses, all have an interest in expanding telecommuting opportunities throughout the state. Under Wisconsin Statute Section 196.5045, a city, village, town, or county may apply to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission for certification as a telecommuter forward community. If approved, the commission issues a telecommuter forward certification showing that a local unit of government has taken steps to demonstrate its commitment to promoting the availability of telecommuting options by coordinating with public and private partners to become telecommuter ready. The Public Service Commission has prepared a telecommuter forward community model ordinance and application form to facilitate certification and statewide consistency. If a political subdivision adopts this model ordinance or enacts its own ordinance and submits a certification for its ordinance that its ordinance meets the statutory criteria, it is eligible for telecommuter forward certification. Enacting the telecommuter forward community model ordinance and obtaining telecommuter forward certification ensures the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin and the people of the state of Wisconsin that Jefferson County supports, 1, coordinating and partnering with broadband providers, realtors, economic development professionals, employers, employees, and other telecommuting stakeholders. 2, collaborating with broadband providers and employers to identify, develop, and market telecommuter-capable broadband packages. 3, working with broadband providers and economic development professionals to develop common goals. 4, promoting telecommuter-friendly workspaces such as business incubators with telecommuting spaces. 5, utilizing broadband mapping tools and other state-level resources. 6, maintaining regular communication with the state broadband office. And 7, making regular reports to the governing body of the political subdivision. This resolution demonstrates the county's efforts in seeking additional grant funds for purposes of expanding telecommuting opportunities throughout Jefferson County. The Broadband Working Group considered this resolution at its meeting on November 6, 2019, and recommended forwarding to the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors for approval. I move for approval of this resolution.
Moved and seconded to support telecommuting opportunities and telecommuter forward certification. Discussion? Supervisor David, please.
Does this include acceptance of 5G technology?
No. It's just about creating opportunities for telecommuting. It doesn't specify any kind of technology.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My concern is that this paves the way for 5G without any looking into the safety of it in our community. And as long as you can assure me that this is not preordained acceptance of 5G in our county, I would accept this.
Would anybody care to comment about satisfying the concern?
This resolution, if you recall, we did the broadband forward resolution a while ago, and that was really geared towards a lot of the regulatory processes and procedures. Really, the meat of this one is really looking at the conceptual opportunity to work collaboratively with partners of finding ways to expand broadband. So it's more of a statement versus even reducing regulatory requirements for things such as 5G.
Thank you. Supervisor Christensen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a number of responsibilities that are attached to this that are going to be in the assigned to the administrator. The administrator already has a heavy workload. It does say designee, or somebody could be designated. Is that what's anticipated?
Mr. Waymire.
I would anticipate these specific tasks to be designated out as seen fit by the specialty of department heads or other staff within the county or other partners that we will have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Votes are locked. We have 30 yes and 0 no.
The resolution is adopted. Now, also from the Broadband Working Group, a resolution authorizing application to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission for fiscal year 2020 for a broadband grant and further endorsing a partnership with Bertram Communications LLC, Networks LLC, Dodge County, and Thrive ED. Supervisor Renard, please.
Resolution number 2019-48. Broadband has been referred to as the infrastructure of the future. During the development of the county strategic plan, broadband expansion was highlighted as a key need for Jefferson County that impacts all rural and urban residents, businesses, medical services, agribusinesses, education access, residential development, and quality of life. As a result, the broadband expansion was highlighted as one of the key short-term goals for Jefferson County. The broadband expansion goal of the strategic plan was recently validated by interviews with the county's townships and municipalities in preparation for the comprehensive plan update, where the need for broadband was a consistent topic brought forward by Jefferson County communities. The county has taken significant steps in moving this strategic goal forward. On December 11th, 2018, the Jefferson County Board enacted a Broadband Forward Community Model Ordinance with the intent to facilitate the expansion of broadband access and usage in unserved and underserved areas of Jefferson County. On March 12th, 2019, the Jefferson County Board approved the development of a broadband working group charged with additional efforts to expand services within the county. The efforts of the broadband working group have included engagement with private entities, economic development organizations, and Dodge County. It also included education on the current state of broadband in the county, potential options to provide services, and a review of grant funds available to the county to expand broadband. On April 11th, 2019, the Broadband Working Group recommended that the County Board engage in a pilot broadband expansion project in partnership with Networks Internet to provide broadband service to underserved and unserved portions of Jefferson County. This recommendation was approved by the County Board on April 16, 2019, with Jefferson County providing $45,610 towards the project and Networks Internet providing $30,407 through cash and in-kind contributions. This project is projected to have service available to 257 residential properties, 28 agribusinesses, two multi-dwelling units, and 68 businesses. It is anticipated this project will be completed by the end of 2019. Most recently, the focus of the Broadband Working Group has been preparing for the 2020 Wisconsin Public Service Commission Broadband Expansion Grant and potential partners to assist in broadband expansion efforts. On August 29, 2019, the Broadband Working Group authorized the county administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Networks, Internet, and Bertram Communication for the purpose of applying for a 2020 Public Service Commission grant. Further, the Broadband Working Group held discussions with Jefferson County and Thrive ED, the regional economic development organization providing services to Dodge and Jefferson County, in support of a comprehensive broadband expansion project. Collaboration with the private sector and other governmental entities, as well as the support of economic development organizations for broadband expansion, are additional goals within the county strategic plan. To further broadband expansion efforts in Jefferson County, the County Board has included up to $250,000 in the 2020 budget to match the funds awarded through the Public Service Commission grant. This broadband expansion initiative will also expand and update the countywide emergency communication system. The Broadband Working Group considered this resolution at its meeting on November 6, 2019, and recommended forwarding to the County Board of Supervisors for approval. The fiscal note, the 2020 budget, has included matching funds in the capital project account in conjunction with the countywide communication project. I move approval of this resolution.
Moved and seconded to authorize application to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission for fiscal year 2020 for a broadband grant and further endorsing a partnership with Bertram Communications LLC, Networks LLC, Dodge County, and Thrive ED. Discussion. Supervisor David, please.
Could someone expand a little bit on what the conversation with Networks and the other providers may be? What type of installation of broadband we're talking about?
Mr. Waymire, please.
And as you'll see later tonight, we're going to present the introduction of the broadband through our website for public engagement as part of this process. So broadband is defined of two specific items when we relate to this expansion grant. One is inline grounds such as fiber or DSL. The other is fixed wireless. Specifically, broadband expansion does not include things such as satellites at home or your 5G, 4G connections as well. So this is specifically focused on broadband expansion. We're looking because of more of the rural urban terrain that we have, that most of this will probably be a fixed wireless solution to be the most economic to expand it as quickly as possible and hit the number of residents and businesses that we can.
Thank you. Further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Votes are locked. We have 30 yes and 0 no.
The resolution is adopted. Now we go to the county administrator with an ordinance amending supervisor district boundaries to reflect annexations. Mr. Waymire, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the board, these next two ordinances were with support of the chair of the board and chair of the executive committee. These were things that had to be done, but timing-wise, we couldn't get the executive committee together on these items. First ordinance is ordinance number 2019-9.
Yep.
Okay. Amending supervisory district boundaries to reflect annexations. Ordinance number 2011-11 adopted on September 13, 2011 and amended on November 12, 2013, November 10, 2015, and November 14, 2017 established 30 supervisory districts for the purpose of electing the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Section parent 1B said of the ordinance directs the county board to review city and village annexations and detachments have occurred since its last review and make such adjustments to supervisory district boundaries as may be appropriate for purposes of election administration by November 15th of each odd number year. Cities and villages typically assign that the area being annexed to the adjacent ward within the corporate limits. To assist election administration, past county boards have amended supervisory district boundaries to match the new corporate limits of the annexing city or village when the annexed territory is different in supervisory district. Annexations that are in different state assembly, senate, or congressional districts than the adjoining city or village ward necessitate the creation of new wards to comply with state law prohibiting wards from crossing state district boundaries. No annexations have crossed state district boundaries over the past 2 years. This ordinance amends the supervisory district boundaries to reflect the annexations that have occurred since the last county board reviewed on November 14, 2017. This ordinance amendment is being presented to the county board for consideration by county administrator pursuant to section 3.04 parent 1 of the county board rules of order. I respectfully request that this ordinance has a motion and second to move forward.
So moved. Second. Moved and seconded to amend the supervisor district boundaries to reflect annexations. Discussion. Supervisor Nass, please.
I trust Supervisor Lund will represent my constituents well.
You can count on it.
Thank you. Further discussion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The boundaries are amended. Also from the county administrator, an ordinance amending the board rules to hold a January 14th, 2020 county board meeting. Mr. Waymire.
This is ordinance number 2019-10, amending board rules to hold a January 14, 2020 county board meeting. As required under section 3.01, parent 1, parent A of the county board rules of order, we have identified the meetings that were established this year. This amendment would add January 14th, 2020 at 7 o'clock p.m. As part of our normal meeting process. I ask for a motion, a second, to move forward with this being a meeting.
Moved and seconded to amend the board rules to hold a January 14th, 2020 county board meeting. Discussion. Some context for those of you who may be newer on the board. Traditionally, the board has not met in January, but it seems like the past few years we've had plenty of business to take care of, so we go through this procedure to add that January meeting, as we will be in early 2020. Further discussion? Supervisor Kennard, please.
Yeah, just to get the record straight, we used to have a January meeting, and then we thought to save money, we would delete the January meeting, which caused zoning problems and all kinds of other stuff. So putting a January meeting back on the schedule regularly probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Thanks for the context, Supervisor. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Resolution is adopted, or the ordinance is amended, rather. Now we go to the Finance Committee with the 2020 county budget. Supervisor Jones, please.
I move that the non-countywide levy budget, the countywide levy budget, and the functional totals as stated in the 2020 recommended budget be adopted.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded that the non-countywide levy budget, countywide levy budget, and functional totals as stated in the 2020 recommended budget be adopted. We won't have discussion and a vote just yet. First, we will ask for any amendments to the budget, and there was one amendment submitted through the process. Supervisor Polson, the floor is yours if you desire.
This is amendment number 1 to amend the 2018 recommended budget as amended by the Finance Committee. I hereby propose increase the budgeted amounts for Fair Week special acts and security expenses with an equal offset to reserve seating revenue in order to provide funding for a headlining act during Fair Week. Also, we are increasing the amount of winter storage rental fees to reflect the fee increase. We estimate that this proposed amendment would decrease the levy by $3,000.
Moved and seconded to amend the budget as submitted in writing. Supervisor Polston and Mr. Waymeyer, you did a good job at the Executive Committee explaining the reasoning, or the Finance Committee rather, explaining the reasoning behind this amendment. Would you care to speak to it?
I think related to the first one is we're looking at opportunities, how we look at the business operations of Fair Week itself and the Fair Park. And some of that is an investment of looking at the cost related to that, but also the corresponding revenue support that increase in revenue expenditure. So we believe this will give the appropriation we need to do negotiations and bring the proper business change to the Fair Park Week. The intent is to continue to move us so we get more and more in the black related to it. Right now we have the Fair Week off the levy, but I know there's a goal eventually, and that was when I first hired, to get the whole operation off the levy. So this is going to help us potentially look at new business opportunities to help that goal be achieved.
Okay. Discussion? Supervisor Jones, please.
Supervisor Paulson brought this before the Finance Committee last week, and as you can see by the vote, it was voted to support it 5-0. And thank Supervisor Paulson for his efforts.
Thank you. Further discussion? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote on the amendment.
Votes are locked. 30 yes, 0 no.
The amendment to the budget is adopted. Are there any other amendments to the budget from the floor at this time? Are there any other amendments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Supervisor Jones, please.
I move to divide the question on the countywide and non-countywide levy budgets.
Moved and seconded to divide the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. question is divided. We'll take up the non-countywide levy budget first. Supervisor Jones?
Resolution number 2019-49.
Yes.
Whereas the proposed 2020 county budget was submitted to the county board by the county administrator on October 8, 2019, and whereas the proposed 2020 county budget was the subject of a public hearing on October 22, 2019, and whereas certain municipalities within Jefferson County have health and library services provided independent of Jefferson County, and therefore the non-countywide budget for 2020 containing total department appropriations and levies for health and library services is apportioned only to the municipalities benefiting from the services furnished by Jefferson County. And whereas the Finance Committee is recommending that Jefferson County fund balance policy, which requires 2 months of current year budget expenditures in the Health Department fund balance, be suspended for the 2020 budget year and reduced to amount not less than 1 month of the current year's budgeted expenditures for the Health Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the sums listed below and the levy contained in the non-countywide portion of the 2020 budget be levied as a county tax to be raised on the tax roll upon all property in Jefferson County located in the municipalities benefiting from the services furnished by Jefferson County that is taxable for the purposes listed below. Health Department, $857,526. Library Services, $1,190,912. Be it further resolved that the requirement established by Jefferson County's fund balance policy to retain 2 months of current year budgeted expenditures in the Health Department's fund balance is hereby suspended for the 2020 budget year, and that the Health Department's ending fund balance should not be budgeted at amount less than 1 month of the current year's budgeted expenditures. Be it further resolved that the above amounts be apportioned according to equalized values established by the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. Fiscal note, the 2020 Health Department mill rate is .1345 and the Library Service mill rate is .3234 per $1,000 of equalized value. In 2019, the Health Department mill rate was .1442 and the Library Service mill rate was .3346, resulting in a decrease of .0113 and .0098 in the Health Department and Library Service mill rate, respectively. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved and seconded to establish non-countywide levies for health and library services. Discussion. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Votes are locked. 30 yes, 0 no.
Resolution is adopted, and then we now go to a resolution establishing the county-wide levy and fees. Supervisor Jones, please.
Resolution number 2019-50. Whereas the proposed 2020 county budget was submitted to the county board by the county administrator on October 8, 2019, and whereas the proposed 2020 county budget was the subject of a public hearing on October 22, 2019, and whereas the board has considered all amendments, if any, to amend the proposed 2020 county budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the authorized positions, the total appropriation for each governmental function as shown below, fund balance application, and assignments in the recommended budget book, and the levy contained in the countywide portion of the 2020 budget be levied as a county tax to be raised on the 2019 tax rolls as follow. And you can see everything listed out, including what we voted on just previously. Be it further resolved that the above amounts be apportioned according to equalized values established by the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. Be it further resolved that the fee schedule for various license, permits, and services used to establish revenue amounts in the budget are hereby approved. So you can see expenditures and revenue and other financing sources. Fiscal note, the 2020 countywide levy is proposed at $28,045,222, which is a mill rate of $3.6545 for general operations and .1543 for debt service fund, for a total of $3.8088 per $1,000 of equalized value. In 2019, the general operation mill rate was $3.8278, resulting in a decrease of .1733 per $1,000 for the 2020 general operations. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved and seconded to establish a countywide levy and fees as amended. Discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Batteries are dead.
Give that man a new battery.
On my credit card?
Okay, votes are locked. We have 30 yes and 0 no.
The resolution is adopted. We have a 2020 budget. Thank you to all who put in lots and lots of work to get us there. Now we go to the Human Resources Committee with a resolution changing the employee 457B deferred compensation plan provider and contracting with a 457B deferred compensation plan independent consultant. Supervisor Brogler, please.
Resolution number 2019-51. Jefferson County provides employees the opportunity to save for retirement by having contributions deducted directly from their paychecks. There are two 547B deferred compensation plans offered by Jefferson County, which employees may choose from. One plan is through Nationwide Retirement Solutions, and the other plan is through Wisconsin Deferred Compensation. To ensure Jefferson County is offering plans that provide employees with the best investment options and customer service, a management team consisting of the county administrator, finance director, human resource director, and benefits administrator conducted an analysis of 457B plans, including the current plans offered to employees. The analysis included attributes such as diversity in investments, stable value funds, administrative and plan expenses, and level of education investment advice offered to employees. The Human Resources Department also conducted a survey to determine employee knowledge on retirement planning and to determine employee preferences for a deferred compensation plan. The results showed that a majority of the employees are not financially prepared for retirement, do not understand the plans they are investing in, and place value on investments that are stable and offer a high guaranteed minimum rate of return. The majority of employees were also willing to pay slightly higher administrative fees to receive greater personal service with a certified financial advisor. The management team sought the advice of an independent consultant from Wells Fargo to identify plans that offer lower fees, greater personal service and education, stable value funds, and registered mutual funds. After reviewing multiple plan options, it is the recommendation of the management team and the Wells Fargo independent consultant to change the 457B deferred compensation plan provider for Jefferson County employees from Nationwide Retirement Solutions and Wisconsin Deferred Compensation to One America. The management team further recommends contracting with Wells Fargo as an independent 457B plan consultant to provide certified financial planning advice and education to county employees related to their 457B plan investments. The fees charged to participants will average 0.53 of employee investments and will include all investment advice and plan administration. The Human Resource Committee met on November 5, 2019, and recommended forwarding this resolution to the County Board to change the 457B deferred compensation plan provider for Jefferson County employees from Nationwide Retirement Solutions and Wisconsin Deferred Compensation to One America. The Human Resource Committee further recommends to contract with Wells Fargo as an independent 457B plan consultant to provide certified financial planning advice and education to county employees related to their 457B plan investments. Fiscal note, costs associated with the employee's 457B deferred compensation plan, including services provided by the independent 457B plan consultant, are paid entirely by employees. There is no fiscal impact to Jefferson County. I move for passage.
Moved and seconded to change the employee 457B deferred compensation plan provider and contracting with a 457B deferred compensation plan independent consultant. Discussion. Supervisor Kennard, please.
Yes, I had an employee approach me on this, and I didn't know what they were talking about at the time, but they thought it was kind of odd that the consultant that you hired to look it over all of a sudden becomes the advisor. They didn't think that was quite kosher, I guess, put it that way. And they also were not in favor of dropping the Wisconsin deferred compensation. They thought that was they liked that plan at the current time anyway. And I guess, is there a way to just to drop the nationwide and keep, so they have an option, or this way they wouldn't have no options?
It was a complex situation, to say the least, among the options. Terry, would you please?
First of all, for the first question, Wells Fargo was not the only consultant that we had spoke to about this, so that was just one of several. The second question in regards to the Wisconsin deferred compensation, employees for that plan will be able to leave any money they have in that plan, but will not be able to contribute more money into it, unlike Nationwide, where all that money has to transfer out. That was part of the deal with getting that lower rate with One America to be able to do that.
In terms of rate, the fees are, I believe, more than 100 basis points lower with the new provider. Nationwide had a lot of fees, some of them hidden, and it did not seem like at all a good deal for many of our employees.
They were in favor of getting rid of the nationwide.
All right. Thank you. Further discussion? Supervisor Mode, please.
I'd just like to comment that that 0.53% service fee that they're charging is an excellent rate.
Yes. Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Votes are locked. We have 30 yes and 0 no.
Resolution is adopted. Now to the Human Services Board. With a resolution authorizing state human services contracts, consortium agreements, and professional service care provider contracts. Supervisor Mode, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive summary. The Jefferson County Human Services Department contracts with state agencies, consortiums, and in excess of 100 professional service and care providers to fulfill its statutory duties. Each year, contracts are renewed and/or updated with additional providers. State law requires county board approval of the state contracts set forth in this resolution. The contracts have not been reproduced and attached to this resolution because they total in excess of 100 pages. The professional service / care provider contract list for 2020 is attached. The Wisconsin Human Services Association negotiates the basic agreements on behalf of the counties, which are standard state forms and are not subject to negotiation by individual counties. The Human Services Board considered this resolution at its October 8, 2019 meeting and recommended forwarding to the county board to approve entering into professional service / care provider contracts with the providers on the attached list and entering into the state contracts as set forth for 2020. Stuck together. Now therefore it be resolved that the Human Services Director or the Administrative Services Division Manager is authorized to execute the state contracts and consortium contracts set forth above. Be it further resolved that the Human Services Director or the Administrative Service Manager is authorized to sign addendums or revisions to state contracts during the course of the year as necessary. Be it further resolved that the Human Services Director or Administrative Services Manager is authorized to sign all other contracts with state agencies and consortiums pursuant to Statute 46.236 MC, Wisconsin statutes, and all professional service care provider contracts as approved by the Human Services Board in accordance with the Jefferson County Purchasing Ordinance. Fiscal note, the costs associated with these state contracts have been included as an appropriation in the 2020 budget. Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Moved and seconded to authorize state human services contracts, consortium agreements, and professional service care provider contracts. Discussion. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Votes are locked. We have 30 yes and 0 no.
Resolution is adopted. Now to the Planning and Zoning Committee with a report on approval of petitions followed by the ordinance amending the official zoning map. Supervisor Nass, please.
Report to the honorable members, Jefferson County Board of Supervisors, the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County filed for public hearing held on October 17, 2019, required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes, notice thereof having been given, and being duly advised that wishes of the town boards and persons in the areas affected hereby makes the following recommendations. The approval of the petitions are listed below. Dated this 28th day, October 19, 2019, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. Which takes us to ordinance 2019-11. I move as printed.
Moved and seconded to amend the official zoning map as printed. Discussion. Supervisor Kennard, please.
I will abstain for potential conflict of interest.
Thank you. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ordinance is amended. Public comment of a general nature. Any member of the public wish to address the board at this time? Announcements. Mr. Waymeyer, please.
Come up for this one. So now that you have approved us moving forward with the broad grant application, including the matching funds, we need help from you all as well tonight. And so part of the next month is really helping us build public support and gaining letters of support of the impact of the grant to businesses, the residents, stakeholders, et cetera, in there. So Tammy has been working hard the last couple of days of developing a web page to kind of link back. So when you go on our main web page, you're going to see in the lower right-hand corner a little blurb talking about do you need internet. So Audrey's going to click on that, and it's going to come to this. It says broadband. So there's actually 4 hot links to go through that. So the upper left is what is broadband. So this kind of talks through the process and the grant application expansion. So this talks through the required service. So this kind of answers the question, what is broadband? And it's fixed wireless or other LAN devices. It also talks about the anticipated speeds that are required to meet it. It also describes where are underserved and unserved areas of the county and what that is mean by definition. And so you'll see with the maps, and that becomes important. So if you recall when we started this process, as an example, we showed some maps, and Supervisor Kennard commented that it says I have service, but I don't. Well, they know the maps aren't totally accurate because it's based on census tract data. And so part of this, if we go back to the main page, is we would like folks to look at it and go to the survey. So our partners, Bertram and Networks, have developed a survey. So this is to help us get some survey questions about needs for broadband within the county, but it also helps isolate location in terms of is it working or not. And this will actually feed into a database to help us determine where there is true internet service or not internet service, along with some subjective and objective questions related to internet. This is all protected data and is used as an aggregate to support the grant application. Then we go back to the other page. In the upper right-hand corner is a broadband project. This will look very familiar because we used the executive summary you guys heard tonight about why are we doing this and everything we've done to build forward with the broadband project, along with some links back to some of the other ordinances and resolutions that you have passed. And, just give a history lesson and tell the story of why we're doing this. And then the working group, folks who've been working on this as well. And then finally, in the lower right-hand corner is a methodology for letters of support. So what we've developed is, I believe it was 6 different kinds of letters of support based on different groups, stakeholder groups, business, education, agriculture, libraries, residents, or government officials. And they can be downloaded in various formats in Word, text, or rich text files. And that it can be customized based on those who would like to provide letters of support to us. So there's 2 ways we'd like to collect this. So first is a Dropbox. If you click this is a secured way for this to come back to us and upload that data. You can also provide it to a email address that we have established, and that is jcbroadband@jeffersoncountywi.gov. Again, that's jcbroadband@jeffersoncountywi.gov. The reason why we're not putting the email on there is because, as you may recall, the lessons of protecting the county, we don't want robo folks taking over that email address and attacking the system right now. So this Dropbox is our methodology to make a safe way for that to be communicated back to us as well. So we ask to use your areas of influence, your networks, whether it's a local business, a farmer, school boards, etc., your townships, municipalities, to ask for letters of support or potentially even resolutions to support our grant. Our intent is we'd like these by the end of the first week in December, so we're ready to deliver this in a full package. These letters of support must be included in our application. If they come in separately to the PSC, they will not be considered as part of that process. So any support you can help us, we appreciate it. This is a big project. I was just letting Amy know, number-wise, we kind of talked through it, but this is going to be well over $3 million is the total project cost. We're asking for about 1.5 to 1.6 from the PSC. We have our 250,000. The rest of companies will be paying for. So it's a pretty substantial investment by the companies and on the PSC if we get the grant. So the more we can get, the better chance we have of the application.
Will there be a blurb on Facebook?
We'll start, once after tonight, you guys are ready to move forward, we'll start getting Facebook and the other fun things to get this thing moving. So any support we can have, we'd be appreciated. The last thing I would like as an announcement is just, you might not believe it, but elections are coming up here pretty darn quick for you all. We start counting down. So part of the process from a staff's perspective is we start to develop a board orientation process. So those who are new to the board, the meeting in April is always the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And we typically, historically, have used the second Tuesday of the month as a board orientation process. And what we liked is get feedback of what would you, information would you like. We've had speakers from the WCA in the past. We've talked about open meetings. We've talked about public records. We've talked about how to run a meeting, a whole variety of things. So for those experienced and those that are new, any feedback, if you wanted to learn something as becoming a new supervisor, let myself, let Blair know, let Audrey know as we start putting together a package. We try to plan this far in advance, and it's going to become a little more exciting because of Mr. Ward, but we'll get that taken care of. So we'd like to try to get something together by the beginning of the year. So if you have ideas, please bring them forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. To reiterate, this is important in terms of that broadband grant. It's a highly competitive grant. Our vision is big, and we need lots of support to get there. So talk to those people you know and get them the right letters of support, if you would, please. Other announcements. Supervisor Renard, please.
Well, it's not really an announcement, but I really just want to thank Ben for all the work he's done on this broadband grant application, working with the two internet providers who are basically competitors and trying to get them to cooperate on one grant application with us and with Thrive. It was a pretty massive amount of like delicate negotiating. So we owe a lot to him that it actually came together. And I really want to thank Tammy for working on this webpage. It's awesome. And I went to the Ixonia Town Board meeting last night and asked them to provide a letter of support, and they were very receptive. And I think if you start talking around to your town boards, your city council, many municipalities, including Watertown, town of Farmington, and Ixonia, and Concord, provided letters of support a year ago when the town of Watertown submitted its grant application. So they already know that this is something that we need, and the people we're working with at Networks to put together the grant application think these letters are very important. So talk to everybody you know about submitting a letter and taking that survey, because that will give us a lot of good data on what's available and where.
What was the final date?
Thank you. I'm sorry.
What was the date that the letters were needed?
First week of December.
First week of December, we'd like those letters by Supervisor Mode, then Supervisor Schultz for announcements.
I'd like to continue on the broadband thing. Those of you that are on a town board or know your town board people, encourage them to make a financial contribution. That will also put us in a lot better position with the PSC as to whether we're serious or not.
Absolutely, thank you. Supervisor Schultz, please.
Yeah, just a question. Somebody referenced the election is coming up. When can papers be taken out? When do they have to be turned back in? And Audrey, would you like to know if anybody here is not running?
Yeah, I would love to know that. That would be really nice.
Papers can be taken out on December 1st. I am not aware right off the top of my head when they need to be returned. I'm referring to nomination papers.
I think it's January.
It's like the first week of January.
Yeah, 6th or something like that it is.
So available at the county clerk's office is a packet with all the forms you need and an explanation of the process for running for county board supervisor, especially for those who were appointed midterm. This would be very helpful for you. Also, I'm willing to help anybody who needs to work through the process. Just give me a call and we'll tell you what you need to do and what the deadlines are. Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn? Is there any objection? We're adjourned.